Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So today we're going to have a look at a new product from Be Quiet. It's actually been out for a while, but I just finally got my hands on it. It's called the Pure Loop 2 FX. So it's the 360 version. It comes in 240, 280, and 360. And we're going to look at the 360 millimeter radiator. So let's have a look at it. Pretty sweet. And of course, they provided the product to me just to make sure I'm covering all my bases here. And I'm going to compare it with the previous 360 one that they had before and give you a little bit of comparisons of what's really changed. And I don't know if there's a whole lot, but let's have a look. Here we go. Okay, so here's our first look. Of course, you can see it's got the light wings, RGB fans on it. But the most important thing that they've changed that I noticed, so down here it used to be all just white. So now they've got this RGB going all the way around to match the fans. And it's going to have a much better look. So I'm going to get it out of the box, start going over it, and we'll compare it with the other one just to show you some differences. And there's some really unique features to it too, so we're going to go over those as well. Okay, so first get it out of the box. This is how it comes. All right. In here, of course, this is going to be our fans or accessories. Let's have a look. It's probably our accessories. Yep, it's our accessories. All our screws. Even include thermal paste. Everything you're going to need. And the nice thing that they do as well, they have two different packages. One that specifies if it's for Intel, and the other one if it's AMD. So it makes it that much easier for you to determine, based on your build, what parts you're going to need. So here's the fans here. All right, at least one of them. All right, looks pretty sweet. I've done a review on these in case you want to see it. Looks pretty good. And of course, PWM fans, along with the RGB. All right, now it is addressable RGB for any of those that are wondering. And let's see where else is. So, okay, the rest of our fans are here and this one here. So 3 fans, of course, 120 millimeter. Manual is a little bit banged up, but that's okay. So Be Quiet, Pure Loop 2 FX, and again, 240, 280, and 360 millimeter is the sizes that it's available in, which covers most of the bases for people. Of course, you have your your radiator all in plastic to protect it. All right, we'll get this out and have a better look. Okay, so this is it, everything out. Here's our rad. Kind of like the naming actually. And on this again, I'm just going to show you this real quick. So you have a couple cables, as you'd expect. You have one here for your addressable RGB, and then you have another one for the fan, okay, or fans. Okay, just keep that in mind. And again, PWM. And this is our pump, okay, so right here. So when they come out with their pumps, of course, Aztec has the design where they had to do it. They had to do it differently. So this is how they've done theirs. All right. So we're going to get into more specifics here in a minute. We're going to get rid of this box and we'll continue on. One more thing though, of course, let's have a look at what is in here. So I believe, and I'm pretty sure this is what it's going to be, but we're going to find out. So they include a 3M thing in case you need it. And that's for this, of course. So this is to plug everything in. So you got your hub. So you have your addressable RGB. You have 3 different connectors here for it. 2 fans. And same thing on the other side. So no problem there. It's going to be powered by the SATA. All right, SATA connector. And of course, there's your other connectors for fans and our addressable RGB again. I'll show you how that all goes together shortly. But there's one more thing, which I've only seen with Be Quiet. I haven't seen it with any other AIO. They include coolant. All right, pure loop, be quiet, coolant. Now, the reason this is significant is about to be shown to you just 1 second here. So, quick look, everything you get. Of course, the box, your 3 RGB fans, your radiator, pump, this goes on your CPU, of course, and your hub, and the coolant. Why would you need coolant in an AIO? Well, that's because Be Quiet is one of the only ones that I know of that gives you the ability, after a few years, to refill it. Okay, some people may not want to be bothered with that. I think it's pretty freaking fantastic. Very simple screw. You undo that, you're going to be able to fill it back up and go from there. All right, very, very simple. You got the little nozzle, you're going to go in, put it on, fill it up, good to go. When we go to attach to the CPU, it's very simple. You got plastic protecting in here and 2 screws that are going to go onto the brackets. It's one of the easiest mechanisms I've had so far for hooking up a radiator to everything you're going to be doing. So that in a nutshell is pretty much everything, but let's get into some specifics. All right, so the thing I wanted to mention again, so this pump, this is called a doubly decoupled PWM fan. Okay, so it'll run smoothly, silently, according with Be Quiet's guidelines and all that kind of good speed. You can control the pump speed. It can be adjusted for silent as well as powerful operations. And it even has effective dampening of the pump. So it will create less noise and vibration. Something, of course, that they're known for. Now, the fans here, these 3 fans, like I mentioned in the beginning, are the Lightwing 120 PWM high-speed fans. Okay, they'll give you impressive illumination, which we'll see later on. A vibrant look, strong performance, and all that kind of good stuff. And of course, cooling. It has 9 silence optimized fan blades that enable high pressure and low noise generating turbulences. Now, of course, like I mentioned as well, is addressable RGB lighting. So if you don't have that in your motherboard, well, you might have a problem. All right. And of course, it comes with the addressable RGB hub. Of course, the all black design, along with the addressable RGB illumination, gives it a pretty nice look, actually. And again, we're going to see all that once we light it all up and have a good look at what it looks like. Try and show you what it sounds like as best I can, so you can get a good idea of it. So I want to go over the technical data, which is basically the dimension of the fans, length, width, and height in millimeters. It's 397 by 120 by 52. The weight, including the fans, is 1545. Now, socket compatibility goes all the way from the 1700 from Intel all the way up to the 2011-3. So it includes the 2066, all the 1150 series, all this kind of good stuff. It does support AMD, of course, all the AM4 sockets, and even now the AM5. The radiator dimensions are 397 by 120 by 27. Right, so the first one was the fans. This is the radiator. The material or the finish is aluminum and black spray painted. Copper nickel plating. Pump speed at 100% is 5500. And the pump connector is 4-pin PWM, as I already mentioned. And the lighting is 5-volt adjustable RGB, again, as I already mentioned. Now, as far as fan dimensions, each fan is length, width, and height in millimeters is 120 by 120 by 25. Fan speeds at 100% are 2500. Your input current is 0.45 amps. Okay, the connector, 4-pin PWM, as we already know, and 5-volt addressable RGB, and the lifespan for each fan is 60,000 hours. All right, so that's the most bulk of all the information you really need to know. And of course, the only other thing is installing it and seeing what it looks like. So we're going to get to that. So one of the things I said I was going to go for and mention was the differences between the two, between the new Pure Loop and the original. So here's the original right here. Basically, they're identical. I really don't see any differences in them at all. Yeah, I don't see any differences. Except, of course, this one was just the white, and that one's colored. And the original came with non-RGB fans, all still 120 millimeter, whereas, of course, the ones in the back here are all RGB. So basically, that's really the only difference. And even these, the original, came with the refill port. Okay, so you can fill it back up. Basically, it makes this AIO. If you keep checking it every 2-3 years or however often you feel you need to, you refill it, it could last you way longer than most AIOs ever will. So I haven't had one long enough to verify that. I have had one running now for probably close to a year, maybe 2 years now. I'm going to have to check the timeline. And then what I'm going to do on that video is I'm going to refill one of them and just see how much it needs and try and find out how to know how much you even need to put in it. And of course, the only other difference is, of course, this one says Pure Loop. This one says Pure Loop 2 FX. That's the differences. Really, everything else is, as far as I know, the same. Except for, of course, the tech specs and stuff that I pointed out already. So the next step is going to be putting the fans on, all that kind of good stuff for our Pure Loop 2 FX and then installation. So I'm going to start with that and we'll continue on once we get it all put together. Probably going to use my test bed. I was going to use an AM5 CPU, but I haven't got one yet. So right now I have the motherboard and everything else, memory. I'm just waiting on the CPU. So due to that, this is just going to be on my test bed, which is just an AM4 processor, and we'll show everything from there. So the recommended method that they recommend, and kind of goes with what I'm thinking as well, is you have your pump here. They're recommending putting your fans like I have here, facing this way, and arrange it however you're going to do it. So your cables all line up and they're on the back. So get them away from the front so that it gives you a cleaner look. So basically take your screw, put it through. You're going to have to line this up, put it in there, and then just tighten it. Okay, once you tighten that up, of course you're going to need a screwdriver. And you're going to have 3 of them going across like that. And that'll look pretty good. And all your cables, if you put this one here, next one, so you'll be able to tidy up your cables and it'll look a lot better. So when you're putting your screws in, just make sure that they go in, all right? Line them up. And then once they get to a certain point, as with a lot of things when it comes to computers these days, once you feel it really, like, just turn it, once you feel that kind of snug up, don't keep going, just stop. Okay, you don't need a whole lot to hold these on. So you don't want it to wind up, causing you issues because you stripped it now. That would be a real pain. So of course your second fan is going to be basically the exact same thing. Line up your cables, kind of like that. You can see how you can get them all lined up. And then that's going to go on like that. And then of course, same thing for your last one. The other one's going to be more to the back, but that'll go along with the other cable there as well. So I'm just going to continue, finish these all up, and then we'll come back. Okay, we got all our fans on. Once you put one on, the rest all go on pretty easy. Now, we're doing an AM4 install. I was going to do the AM5, but I just don't have the CPU and things ready yet. So we're going to go with the AM4 that I have for the moment. So all your parts are right here. And the nice thing is, they label the bag AMD so you know what to look for. Simple. You got your two brackets, you got your spacers and your screws that are going to fasten it all down. They even give you a thermal paste. So the next thing we're going to do is get our motherboard up here, remove the brackets where these are going to go. I'm going to show you that, and we're going to get at it. Okay, so on AM5 motherboard, it's going to be different, so just be aware of that. The back plate doesn't come off, so there's going to be a different installation type on that. So I'm going to try and do that for you in the future. Right now we're doing AM4. So the first thing you have to do, I've already loosened these off. We're going to take them off. Here's the trick. Take one off at a time. They tell you to take both. If you do that, the back plate's going to drop down, and then, well, then it becomes a little more difficult. Take this one off first. Just simply put your screwdriver in, comes out, same thing for the other side, and remove the bracket. Now, when you do that, you're going to be able to see the back plate popping up. So that's when you want to take your spacers, put it over top of them. They will only go on one way usually. So if it doesn't fit one way, the other way. Okay? It's done that way for a reason. Once you've done that, then you need your little spacer here, which is going to fit on top. Okay, notice that this is pointing this way. All right, so you're going to put that on there. I don't know if I can put that on there, if it'll stay. We'll see. And put your screws down. Okay, it comes with 4 screws. Okay, so you're just going to put them in and fasten it down. Okay, so I'll start with this side and tighten it on. It should tighten down to a certain point. If it doesn't, well, you got a problem, but it is. So don't over tighten it, because you're going to have to maneuver the other one here just a little bit to make sure it's all lining up right. All right, then put your other screw in, same thing with it, and then just simply tighten it down. All right, and once you've got it on there good, you can tighten it a little bit. You don't want it to move afterward, of course. And then do the exact same thing on this side. Rinse and repeat. Put our brackets on and screw them down. And at that point, the hardest part's done, believe it or not. Now, whether you have the CPU in at this point or not, I did. Doesn't hurt anything, but if you don't want to do it that way, you want to put it in afterward, you're certainly within your rights to do so. The only thing you have left, apply your thermal paste and put your bracket on there. Now, of course, with this being a test bench, it's going to look a little different than it will be in a case, of course. But I'm going to put the bracket on the cooler. It's going to go on a cooler, or CPU rather. Our CPU cooler is going to go on here. And then I'm going to show you how to hook up all the cables. So, of course, you got the warning. Please tear off the tape before you use it. So make sure you take this off prior, like after you put your thermal paste on. So when you put it on, you're not going to have that interfering with your thermals. And trust me, it will. We're going to put our thermal paste on. This is going to be so different once it's an AM5. I'm not sure how I'm going to like it. Anyway, so let me just see if I can get a better angle at this so you can see it better. Not that it really matters. There's a lot of different ways to put it on, but basically a little blob in the middle. That should more than suffice, to be quite honest with you. Basically the shape of a pea, maybe not quite the full size, but it's close enough. It'll spread out, so not to worry. Now we're going to put on our Be Quiet, lining it up here. So you're going to fasten it here and here. Okay, that's key. Make sure that you know that's what you're doing. All right, so again, I'm just going to zoom in. So right there, okay, you can see that, those two places. On your AIO itself, no problem, it's going to go on. So don't worry about it too much. This is a little difficult because it's not in the case to actually get it to go on. So we're going to start off, peel this off. All All right, so our plastic is off, and it's going to set in there without any problem, just so you know. And it does get a little tricky to see this, so I'm going to try my best to get it on here without it bothering anything. Once you line up one side, the other one should be a no-brainer, really. Okay. Now, once you've got that, start tightening that down. Just do a little bit, go to the other side. And I just go back and forth, and you'll know because you can hear it when it's threading in. And it'll only go so far, and it'll just stop. You'll feel it getting snug. Now again, because I'm doing this without the benefit of being in a case, it's actually harder, to be honest. So just be aware. Okay, it'll only go so far, and it'll stop. It won't let you turn it any further. Okay, that's the installation. It's on there. All right, screw here, one on the other side. Done. All right, just so you can see that. It's kind of hard to see it anyway, but let me turn it so you can, but actually I can't. So let me just lift the water cooler up first. Then we'll turn it so you can see the whole thing. So screw here and your screw there. All right. Now, let's get on to showing you how the cables are all going to go in to the hub. Okay, so each fan has its RGB and for its fan, okay? So take your RGB hub, all right, and just start plugging them in. So you have 2 pins in one, okay? Look for that on here. Line them up. They'll only go in one way, all right? And plug it in. And of course it has the fan right beside it. And the reason you want to do that is just so you can coordinate what one's working where. So once you've got that on there, do the same thing for all 4 fans, or all 3 fans rather. And then we're going to power it up and have a look. So I'll have to untangle all these cables and we'll come back. Okay, so we have 3 connectors coming from the hub itself. We have a SATA connector. So from your power supply, find your SATA connector. It has an L shape. Find your L shape on here and plug them in. Simple as that. All right. Now, for your other ones, for your fan, you want to plug one into your system fan header. Okay, so line it up, plug it in. And same thing for your adjustable RGB. I have one right over here. Okay, let me just move this. Your adjustable RGB is on this one right here. Line it up again. And once you got it on there, now I don't know why it's always different on the motherboard. It's always more difficult to get it on for whatever reason. But once you've got it on, it should be good. But I always find this just is so off. Does anybody else notice that? Or is it just me? There. So once I've got it lined up, so now you're going to be able to control from your motherboard, from the adjustable RGB here. Your fans are going to be able to control from your motherboard through the hub, of course. And the hub is getting its power from the SATA. So now we're going to power it up. We're only going to get a BIOS because, well, we don't have it hooked up to anything yet. So I'm going to take a minute, hook that all up, and we'll come back. Okay, so there's a couple more things I want to point out. So coming off of here, we've got another addressable RGB that has to go onto the motherboard as well. Now, I don't know if I can plug it into the hub, make it work. I might try both just to see. And of course, we have another one that has to plug into the CPU fan, or if you have a fan pump, it would probably work there, but then you have to go into your BIOS and change things up. So anyhow, for now, I'm going to plug it in where the CPU fan goes and plug in the adjustable RGB onto the motherboard. And I'm going to try it onto the pump afterward, or rather the hub afterward, and see if that helps cut down on cables, because right now it's kind of a mess. But those are the additional 2 cables that I forgot to show. So you have these 2 more cables coming off you have to plug in. So make sure that you do that. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see what happens when I power it on and plug it in. All right, look at that. That's lit up like a Christmas tree. So you can see our fans are all lit up and obviously going. And now you can see this is lit up here. See that? Awesome. That is what I like to see. That is exactly what I like to see. Perfect. Now I'm going to have to do the temps. We'll get to that in a moment, but I just wanted to see everything working. And that is exactly what I got right now. I plugged in everything except the graphics card, so we'll come back. Okay, so along with having the lights, everything running in a sequence right now, kind of on, off, different patterns, different colors, along with the CPU cooler being taken care of. The one thing I want to show you is our temperatures. So our CPU is setting idle at 27 degrees, motherboard's at 32, so you couldn't ask for better than that. Honestly, I think that's probably the lowest I've seen in quite a long time. And proof is in the pudding. It's not only looking good, it's working good. Okay, so one thing I want to do is I want to give you a sound test. Here we go. Now that's running at 100%, by the way, so this is as loud as it gets. And this is back about 2 feet. So judge it off of that, if you will. What you think in terms of loudness. And of course, it's at the high setting. You can change it if you wish. All right. I am going to change one more thing because I just want to see what happens. Now, the one going in to the CPU fan will probably give me an error message if I plug it into the pump fan. That's typical of what I've seen. But I want to see if I plug the addressable RGB into the hub, what will happen. Hopefully I don't fry anything. So bear with me a sec. I'm going to try that after I turn it off and everything, of course. Okay, so I turned it off, turned it back on, plugged the addressable RGB from the radiator into the hub. So there's only one addressable RGB that's going to the motherboard, which makes more sense to me anyway. I mean, you'd think the hub would be able to do that. And everything is still working. So I'm going to call that perfect because one less cable you have to have on the motherboard. So you can pick which one you want to do. You can pick the one that's directly closest, or you can pick the one that has the longer cable. Totally up to you what you want to do with that. Temperatures are still staying pretty good. Sitting right at 29 and 35 for the motherboard. So, you know, it is quite warm down here. So ambient temperature is quite warm. So I'm not surprised by that. And yeah, I think it's working pretty darn good. It does cycle. Well, everybody, so that's the end of the video. Worked out pretty well. It'll obviously look a lot better in a case, but kept the temps really, really low. It was quite quiet. There was a bit of noise to it, but you can tell me what you thought with them having put the mic to it so you could hear it or not. Overall, for 3 fans spinning at top speed, thought it was pretty impressive. But again, you can let me know. Anyway, tell me what you thought. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it. If you didn't, leave me a comment. Let me know what you didn't like and what you want to see in the next one. If you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications for videos as they come up in the future. And of course, thank you for watching. And don't forget, you can always join the channel to support it. And there's always a super thanks. Take care. Have a good day. And I hope this helps somebody out. Have a good one.